Lately, I've been getting into cryptology and cryptolinguistics, the study of encoded messages and unfamiliar written languages, especially as they relate to history, so here's a video about one of those topics. In 2012, someone in England renovating their home found a dead pigeon with a tiny plastic canister strapped to its leg, containing a coded message. Further research revealed that this message was sent during World War II by a British soldier on the European mainland, and the bird was trying to get to British military intelligence in the UK. The message consists of 27 5-letter codes that many people have tried to break, but so far the results have been questionable. One possible very basic theory as to how to decode this message, this is just my own example, is by assuming it translates letter for letter to English or some other known language, and the 5-letter chunks of text are thrown in there to confuse the reader. The result of the decoded message, if the theory is correct, would be a string of words with no spaces, and the reader would simply have to add spaces where they should be. If this were the case, we would start the decoding process by counting how many times each letter appears in the text. In the English language, in general, the most common letters tend to be A, E, I, and O. They're vowels, so this makes sense, although U is not quite so common. After these 4 vowels, more common letters include H, N, R, S, and T. If you can find the vowels, guessing which letter is which becomes a lot easier. Another clue for a direct cipher, like we're assuming this is, would be to count which letters appear near each other. If there are combinations of 2 letters that appear frequently, they might be something like TH, CH, or SH. They might also be pronouns like he or it, or other short words like is. If we're counting combinations of 3 letters, try the, she, and other common short words. Also pay attention to letters that are repeated. In this coded text, D, E, G, K, and Y are letters that appear next to each other at least once. Which letters do that in normal English? Appear has 2 P's in it, assume has 2 S's in it, common has 2 M's in it. Take an educated guess based on the text, and logic letters out until you're left with a translation that makes sense. Unfortunately for us, it's not that simple. We're talking about a military with tons of manpower dedicated to breaking German communication codes and creating their own codes that the Germans could not break, during the era that led up to the Cold War itself. All logic points to this being more complicated than a direct cipher. If you're looking at a code that someone new to cryptology came up with, though, it might be as simple as guessing letters until you're right. There are people, however, who claim to have solved this code. One of the most well-known is Gord Young of Canada. He, using a World War I codebook from the British military that was handed down through his family, believes that he successfully identified a series of 5-letter acronyms in this message, such as FNFJW translating to Final Note Found Jerry's Whereabouts. British intelligence says that this almost certainly is not the correct solution because World War I codes would not have been used in World War II. The Germans would have had 2 decades or more to figure them out. Young's response to this, though, is that the way the author signs his name, abbreviating Sergeant SJT instead of SGT, signals that he was taught using World War I methods rather than World War II methods. The nature of the solution, according to British intelligence, would be a 2-factor cipher. 2-factor meaning that once you decode the direct cipher, as we talked about in the beginning, there is still one more step you need to take before you see a message that makes sense. So even if you successfully decode the simple direct cipher, you wouldn't even know it, because your result would just be gibberish. The 5-letter codes, they say, can be translated using a guidebook only available to British intelligence, and changing regularly during the war so the Germans don't figure it out. A 5-letter code could translate to something such as a location or a military operation. Using this method, someone in the field could communicate ideas to military HQ without the Germans having any hope at all of figuring it out, even if they caught the bird carrying the message. As for the message carried by this pigeon, however, the guys at British military intelligence tell us that they lost the book which could be used to decode the 5-letter codes, so they don't know what any of them mean. Unless that book is found, people will probably never know what was in that message.